As parents, we tend to put our sexuality on the back burner, wishing it to come back by magical thinking or simply just letting things go and ignoring it. With legalization and the right guidance, our next guest says cannabis can be quite effective in trying to bring that part of oneself that feels eternally lost after having all those wonderful children. Joining us now is Kelly Swartz. She is the founder of Awoken Beauty and an erotic expert and health coach with more than 10 years' experience in the realm of human sexuality and expression. Welcome to What She Said.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Now, you are a mother of 3, and they're all under
4.
All under 4.
Yeah,
okay, so you recently wrote a blog post called Cannabis and Intimacy and Parenting. And you talk about going through a rough time dealing with mild postpartum depression and not being the mom you wanted to be. So tell us about that.
Well, 3 kids is a lot of kids.
Yeah.
I don't have family in Canada. I'm not Canadian. And winter is very, very long. So it was a lot. It was a lot of overwhelmingness. And whenever you go through a transition like motherhood, there's always a big change in who you are. And even though I had gone through that change already, this was my 3rd baby. Again, 3 kids is a lot of kids, and all my children are very young, and you lose yourself in the process, right? We have all these expectations of who we want to be and who we want to become, and there's so many outside expectations too. We see on social and especially on social, but we see all these portrayals of the perfect motherhood with the perfect 6-week postpartum body, the bikini body, and things like that. And there's all those expectations, and then of course there is the wanting to go back, right? I encounter with my clients all the time. It's like, I want to go back. I want to rekindle my relationship, but I want to go back to my body. I want to go back to my sex life. I want to go back. And there is no going back. Your life is different right now. There is absolutely no way of going back to what you used to have. There is a going forward. And like a question I asked them is, when was the last time you had very loud sex? And like, what do you mean loud sex? I'm like, yes, loud sex on the kitchen floor, or even loud sex in the bedroom. It's like, oh, I can't do that. I have children. It's like, well, there you go. You can't have what you used to have. You can have something different. So in this article, it was a big aha moment for me. First of all, becoming very, very, very vulnerable with my audience, and being like, well, as much as I portray this mother that makes granola for her kids and so on, I am struggling, and I'm really, really struggling, and I feel like a failure often. I actually just wrote a post about Mother's Day and how I felt it was a terrible day for me again, because I just wanted to get away. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to want to do that every once in a while. But what I discovered with cannabis, I thought I couldn't consume cannabis because I've been nursing. And I went to this event in which Jack Newman, the god of nursing, he gave a whole explanation, a scientific explanation on how it is safe to consume cannabis while nursing. Pregnancy is a whole other world, but nursing is basically fine. So I went home and I'm like, okay, we had some CBD oil. I took some CBD oil, and it did help a lot with the stress and the anxiety and the more than anything, the overwhelmingness. But the CBD is more of a body high in a way. But the THC is a other thing. So we did take also the THC oil at another point, and it was incredible. And that's what it did rekindle in a way, like that part of me that had been lost after my 3rd child.
So you say getting stoned with your husband was the best thing you did for your marriage in a long time.
That's right.
But you've done cannabis in the past.
I hadn't done cannabis since I had children, because I've been either pregnant or nursing for a really long time.
Right.
Or both at the same time. So I hadn't done cannabis basically since I had.
Right, but you had done it, so it wasn't like a whole new feeling.
No, yes and no. Because cannabis nowadays in the legalization age is a whole other level of cannabis. It's like when you were in college and you drank wine from like a box, like a milk carton, and it was like, it's wine, and it usually gave you a headache, but it did the trick, or vodka, or like it was like it was alcohol, usually poor quality, but what you could afford, and cannabis was kind of the same. Cannabis, you got whatever you could from the guy. I'm from Mexico, so it was, whatever the guy had, and it was usually came with in a pack of a newspaper rolled, and there was a lot of seeds, and whatever it was, it was. Nowadays, you have options, and there's
specific strains for specific things.
Specific strains, specific percentages of THC versus CBD, and those are not only the only cannabinoids that exist within the plant, and also different ways of consuming it. It's not the same taking oil, then vaping, then edibles, then smoking. And again, I hadn't consumed cannabis since I had children.
So were you surprised at how it made you feel?
Very surprised, because I'm not the same person I was before. I am a mother of 3 with a very, very overwhelming schedule and very sleep deprived, and so many balls to juggle. And cannabis gave me back part of my erotic self, and that's one of the big things I like to talk about and I like to promote.
Well, research has found that marijuana users tend to have up to 20% more sex than non-users, and women who smoke pot not only experience an increase in libido, but they have better orgasms too.
Okay, so this is exactly what I want to get to. So the erotic self, the erotic is the part of sexuality that uses the brain, and the brain is our largest sex organ and the one we usually don't use. What cannabis does is it helps us take away all the to-do list that we have in our brains, because usually when we encounter women and we have candid conversations, which don't happen very often, we don't have those safe spaces, or a lot of them, which is like, how is your sex life? And it's like, oh, I really can't get into it, or I'm thinking about a gazillion other things, or I just want him to finish so I can, move on to the next thing. And it's usually a head thing. It's not a body thing. It's a head thing. So cannabis allows you to stay more in your body and stay more present in your body, and at the same time, put that to-do list on the side. For a little while, it's not important because you are much more present. You become much more present. Now, if you overdo the cannabis, or there's certain strains of cannabis that can make you very sleepy, or it can make you too giggly for sex, although I think sex and giggles are a great combination, unless the other person takes it personally, or they should giggle too. So it does that, right? It does take you out of that space of just overthinking everything.
Okay, so you're actually hosting a workshop for women.
That's
called
true.
Sex, Cannabis, and Intimacy. It's going to be on May 22nd in Toronto. So tell us about that and what's going to be happening.
Well, after my first experience with cannabis, after parenting, I was like, oh, well, this is a whole new world, and I know nothing. I thought I was a smoker. I was a user. I knew my stuff, and I really don't know anything, especially in this whole new world. So I'm bringing an expert, Tabitha Fritz, that will be talking about cannabis. But I think the most important thing right now is education, and to educate ourselves and know what is out there, how we can use it, how we can access it. The OCS website is not the most user-friendly.
It is not. And you can't even see what you're buying. You only see the container.
Yeah,
what good is that?
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. Hopefully it will change. So I'm having, she will come in to talk about that, and I will be making the connection and hosting a very intensive workshop on self-intimacy and how you can connect self-intimacy, intimacy, and cannabis. It's a women-only workshop to make it a safe space. There will be wine, there will be some food, there will be really fun swag bags, which may or may not include chocolate.
And edibles? Well, no, they're still illegal.
They're still illegal, but may include maybe some lube. We shall see. You'll have to come and see.
We'll have to come and see.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can people go to get more information about that?
Well, you can find me on social as Awoken Beauty on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and my website is also awokenbeauty.com. And there are links to the event all over my social. And you can, if you just do a search of sex, cannabis, and intimacy on Eventbrite, you can also find the workshop.
Okay, so it's Awoken Beauty. Why do you call it Awoken?
Well, to reawaken. My whole shtick, or my whole goal, not shtick, but my goal in my work, in the work I do, is to reawaken the erotic. It's an erotic reawakening. So
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming in and telling us all about this. It's interesting. I just have to go and attend and maybe pass the information on to my husband.
absolutely.
Thank you.
With my pleasure.
Well, she said